My sister-in-law rented out my private lake cabin on Airbnb without my knowledge, collected $47,000 in bookings for the entire summer, and thought she could keep the money because she called it helping with family expenses. My phone started buzzing at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in June. Not the usual morning buzz of emails and work notifications. This was different. This was the sound of my phone having some kind of nervous breakdown. Ding, 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 ding. 43 notifications in rapid succession. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through the notifications. Airbnb messages. Dozens of them. Hi. Looking forward to our stay June 15th to 22nd. What time is check-in? Does the cabin have Wi-Fi? My kids are asking. Can you confirm the hot tub works? That's why we booked. First time renting an Airbnb property. This looks amazing. See you in 2 weeks. I was frozen. Completely frozen. My cabin. My private lake cabin that I'd purchased 8 years ago with money I'd saved from my salary as a marketing director in Seattle. My cabin that was supposed to be my sanctuary. My cabin that I'd specifically kept off the market because I didn't want to deal with tourists and strangers and rental logistics. My cabin was listed on Airbnb, and it had bookings for the entire summer. I opened the listing with shaking hands. There were 73 photos. Professional photos. The kind that have been edited and filtered and styled. Photos of my cabin's interior. Photos of my deck overlooking the water. Photos of my kitchen. Photos of the hot tub that I'd installed myself 2 summers ago. The listing title was, Gorgeous Lakefront Cabin, Pristine Waterfront Property. Perfect for family getaways, $400 per night. My cabin. Renting for $400 a night. And I'd had nothing to do with it. The listing bio said, Welcome to paradise. This stunning cabin is managed by a local property manager who knows the area intimately. We take pride in offering authentic, personalized hospitality to our guests. A local property manager. The only person who had keys to my cabin besides me was my sister-in-law, Margaret. My brother's wife. The woman who'd asked me 3 weeks ago if she could stay at the cabin for a weekend to recharge. I'd said yes. I had not said yes to her renting it out. I called Margaret immediately. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hey sis. What's up? Her voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. The cheerfulness of someone who knows they've done something wrong, but hasn't been caught yet. Margaret, can you explain why my cabin is listed on Airbnb? Silence. Just for a second. But enough time for her to realize that the jig, as they say, was up. Oh, you got the notifications. She sounded relieved, like I'd figured it out, and now we could all laugh about this as a funny misunderstanding. Listen, I know this looks crazy, but I was just trying to help. I know money's been tight for you since the divorce, and I thought, my money has not been tight, I said, and I was proud of how calm I sounded. I have a 6-figure salary. I have a 401k. I have savings. And more importantly, I have a property that I did not authorize you to rent. Come on, Victoria, it's not that big a deal. I'm just renting it out for the summer. I was going to tell you eventually. And I'm covering all the expenses, the cleaning, the linens, the utilities. All of it. I was just going to keep the rental income to help offset costs. You were going to keep the rental income, I repeated, from my property, that I own, that I never authorized you to list. But you're not using it. The cabin sits empty most of the year. That's my choice to make. My voice was rising now. I could feel the rage building like a thunderstorm. Margaret, you cannot just list someone else's property on Airbnb without permission. That's not helping with expenses. That's theft. It's not theft if I'm managing it properly and not pocketing the money. I'm literally just running it like a business. What's the big deal? The big deal was that I had spent 8 years building a private sanctuary. A place where I could escape the chaos of my job and my divorce and the general exhaustion of being an adult. The big deal was that my sister-in-law had violated my trust and my property rights in one fell swoop. Remove the listing, I said. Today. Or I'm calling the police. Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. Let me just finish out the summer bookings. These people have paid for their stays. I can't just cancel on them. That's not my problem, I said. That's your problem. Your problem that you created when you committed property fraud. Remove the listing. I hung up before she could respond. Then I called my lawyer. Margaret did not remove the listing. Instead, what Margaret did was change the locks. I found out about this when I drove up to the cabin on Friday to collect some belongings and found my key didn't work. I stood there literally, rattling a key in a lock that had been changed. And I could see through the window that inside the cabin, two people were moving around. Strangers. Guests. I called the sheriff. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Department sent Officer Daniel Torres. He was in his 50s, with the exhausted expression of someone who'd seen every variation of family drama that human nature could produce. So you're telling me your sister-in-law changed the locks on your property? Officer Torres asked, reviewing the deed that I'd brought with me. Yes. After I told her to remove the Airbnb listing, she apparently changed the locks instead. And you have the property deed proving ownership? I'm on the deed. I'm the only owner listed. Officer Torres looked at the cabin, then at me, then at the locked door. Let me call my supervisor. What she's done here, unauthorized rental of someone else's property, changing locks on property she doesn't own, refusing access to the legitimate owner. These are potential felonies. 20 minutes later, Officer Torres and I were standing outside the cabin. Inside, a family was enjoying their vacation. A family that had no idea they were participating in a crime. Officer Torres knocked on the door. A man in his 50s answered. He had the expression of someone who'd paid good money for a peaceful weekend, and was about to discover that peaceful was not going to be part of his experience. I'm going to need you to vacate this property, Officer Torres said, showing his badge. You're staying in a property that's been rented to you fraudulently. The property owner has not authorized this rental. What? The man looked at me. She's the owner? I'm the owner, I confirmed. This property is registered to me. It was listed without my permission. Changed locks were installed without my permission. You need to leave. The family was gone within an hour. Angry, demanding refunds, threatening to sue Airbnb and Margaret and everyone involved in what they correctly identified as a fraudulent rental scheme. I didn't feel bad about it. Officer Torres called a locksmith. The locksmith changed the locks back to mine. I now had keys to my own property again. Then Officer Torres and I went to find Margaret. Margaret was at my brother's house. My brother, David, opened the door with confusion on his face. Confusion that rapidly transformed into horror when he understood what was happening. Margaret, I need you to come outside, Officer Torres said, his voice professional and non-threatening. Margaret appeared behind David. Her face went pale. What is this? You're not under arrest, Officer Torres said. But I need to inform you that changing locks on property you don't own is a felony. Renting property without the owner's permission is felony property fraud. And evicting the legitimate owner from their own property is, well, that's several felonies. I was just trying to help. Margaret was crying now. Actual tears. Victoria doesn't use the cabin. I was trying to generate income to help with family expenses. By committing fraud? I asked. By stealing my property's rental income? By changing my locks? I was planning to tell you. I was planning to give you a cut. A cut of what? My own property's income? That's not generous, Margaret. That's criminal. Officer Torres explained that Margaret had multiple options. She could work this out with me civilly, or she could face criminal charges. I could pursue this through small claims court, or I could pursue it through criminal court. My brother David was now looking at me with an expression somewhere between guilt and betrayal. How much money are we talking about? He asked quietly. The listing shows 73 booked nights through September, I said. At $400 a night, that's approximately $29,200. She's collected it. She has it in an account somewhere. I'll pay you back, Margaret said immediately. I'll pay every penny back. Please don't press charges. And the changed locks? Officer Torres asked. And the unauthorized rental of a property that isn't yours? I made a mistake, Margaret whispered. You made several felonies, Officer Torres corrected. Multiple felonies. The question now is whether the property owner wants to pursue this criminally or civilly. I looked at Margaret. I looked at my brother. I thought about 8 years of private sanctuary violated. I thought about Margaret's assumption that she could just take my property without consequences. I want restitution, I said. Full amount. $29,200, plus the costs of replacing the locks. Plus the costs of my lawyer. Plus emotional distress damages of $15,000. That's $44,200 total, Margaret whispered. That's what your felonies cost, I said. I don't have that kind of money. Then you should have thought about that before you committed fraud. Officer Torres explained that Margaret had two options. Pay me directly or face criminal charges that could result in jail time. Margaret chose to pay me directly. She borrowed money from my brother. She wrote me a check the following Monday. But the criminal charges didn't go away automatically just because she paid restitution. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Department filed a report. The prosecutor's office reviewed it. Margaret was charged with 3 counts of felony property fraud, 1 count of larceny, and 1 count of illegal lock changing on property she didn't own. She ended up taking a plea deal. 1 year of probation. 200 hours of community service. Restitution of $44,200 paid to me. And the requirement that she never again manage, list, or attempt to profit from any property that she didn't own. My brother stayed with David for a while after all this. I didn't press him to take sides, but the underlying betrayal was clear. Margaret had tried to steal from me, and David had let her. Or at least he hadn't stopped her. Our relationship slowly recovered, but it was never quite the same. I closed my Airbnb account. I removed all references to the listing. I hired a contractor to completely redo the cabin's interior. New locks, new security system, new cameras. I wasn't going to take any chances. I also filed an additional civil suit against Margaret for emotional distress and violation of property rights. That suit resulted in another $25,000 judgment in my favor. Margaret paid it, not because she wanted to, but because the court ordered her to. A year after the arrest, I ran into Margaret at a grocery store in Seattle. She looked diminished somehow, smaller, like something inside her had been broken by the consequences of her own actions. "I'm sorry," she said, and her voice was genuine. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am genuinely sorry for what I did to you." "I know you are," I said. "But knowing you're sorry doesn't make it okay. It doesn't unmake the violation. I understand that now." I left the store and went home to my sanctuary, my lake cabin, the place that Margaret had tried to commodify and profit from. What I learned from this experience was simple but profound. Your property is your sanctuary. Your boundaries are your protection. And people who violate those boundaries need to face real consequences, not just apologies. I didn't regret pursuing this legally. I didn't regret pressing charges. I didn't regret making sure that Margaret understood that actions have consequences. And I definitely didn't regret teaching my brother that loyalty to me meant not allowing his wife to commit felonies against me. The cabin sits quietly most of the year, just as I designed it. It's never been rented to a stranger since that summer. It's never been compromised again. It's mine, completely mine, protected by my own choices and by the legal system's confirmation that some violations demand real accountability. Margaret learned that lesson the hard way, and I got my sanctuary back.